Welcome to Awakened Motherhood, the podcast where mothers share their powerful stories of healing and empowerment. I am your host, Amanda Quick, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and advocate. In each episode, we dive deep into the stories of mothers who have overcome adversity, found their fierce feminine power, and embraced transformative parenting. Whether you're a mother driven to fight for your children or someone with a story burning inside you, this podcast is for you. Together, we'll explore themes of resilience, self-trust, and healing from our traumatic experiences, all spotlighting the profound journeys of awakened mothers. Join us for a space of naked authenticity, deep inspiration, and genuine connection. Embrace the divine feminine and discover your own warrior mama within. Welcome to Awakened Motherhood, where your story is the spark for change. All right, welcome everyone back to another episode of Awakened Motherhood. I am your host, Amanda Quick, and today I am going to introduce Autumn Kurter. She is a wellness advocate who helps individuals rediscover their identity, find balance amidst chaos, and pursue their dreams. With a background in applied health and personal experience, she uses practical strategies and empathy to foster well-being and personal growth. Additionally, as a parenting advocate, she supports families in thriving together. Her goal is to transform life's journey into one of holistic wellness and self-discovery. Welcome, Autumn.
That was a mouthful.
But there's a lot in there, right? There's a lot of things you've gone through and a lot of your journey that we're here to talk about. So I'm excited to dig in.
So the more practical things that you guys need to remember is I have 4 children. And they have led me on a journey, and they still are. And hopefully it'll be that way for the rest of my life.
Yes. I always say my kids are my greatest teachers. And as infuriating as that can be sometimes, you know, I have 3, not 4, but definitely feel you there. So yeah, let's dig in. I think on this show, we mostly talk about our personal experiences, but they all intersect, right? Our personal and professional generally when we get into this space, and that being on top of each other and the things that we learn and the challenges we have become such a part of who we are that we can't separate it anymore. So why don't you start wherever it feels good to start about, what life used to be like and kind of who you were before all of this transformation happened.
So before I was born, no.
Right, well, maybe we can get into the ancestral trauma part too, I'm sure, but
it's there. So sure, I was born into a very abusive environment. Very you guys are gonna have to bear with me. I got in a car accident last week. My brain's not all the way online.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he used me for breaks instead of his own.
Yeek.
Anyway.
Yeek. Wow. Doing some loving, healing energy. It's okay.
Yes. Give me the healing. So it was chaotic. That was the word that I was trying to come up with. A very chaotic life that I was born into. My first memories are of domestic violence. Yes, I still see a therapist. It's amazing. Highly recommend therapy. And I really needed to unwrap a lot of these things. I still am. And realizing it's going to be a lifelong journey is infuriating and also motivating sometimes. But also helps me realize that I get to help other people along on my healing journey. I get to help them. And that is what I'm all about. I love helping other people. And it's in my nature, and I love that being away from that toxic environment, cutting off those abusive people has allowed me to step into who I am and who I am naturally, which I am a healer. I'm a natural born leader in that aspect. And I love that I can do that when I was not allowed to growing up. I know it sounds very vague, but I want it to not be super specific so that it resonates with more people. And also so I don't trigger myself, to be totally honest. And I did not really start to unwrap this. I started to I keep needing to pause, does this feel authentic, because there's so many times when we're on our journey where we need to pause and do that self-check-in, like, oh, this isn't true for me anymore. So that's where my pauses are coming from. But separating myself from my toxic parents and other family members was a huge step. But then along that journey, and what caused that was me having children and realizing how toxic they were, and I did not want them around them. I'm used to the toxicity. I'm used to the abuse. I grew up in it. But it doesn't mean I want them tainted.
Oh, what you're saying is so resonant. So many people were like, "Oh, it's fine for us. We're used to this." But wait, now you want to treat my children this way? Whole story.
Whole different. Yeah, no. I won't fully cuss because I don't like when other podcasts cuss, because I'm listening sometimes in the car with my kids and I'm like, oh, there's an F-bomb or, whatever.
Grown-up words.
Yeah.
That's how I teach my kids, because I cannot avoid them hearing it. It is a grown-up word. I mean, you were not supposed to say that.
Yeah. Anyway, so all the cuss words, no, right? As a parent, Mama Bear comes in, and Mama Bear is such a different animal than us who are survivors that it's sometimes good to unleash that Mama Bear and be like, nope. And while we're at it, I'm going to protect myself too and say nope here too. So that happened. And in one of my classes, so I went back to school when my youngest, I told you, my brain. My oldest was 17 months old and started and finished my undergrad in applied health. And one of the last classes that I took, and I'm glad that it was last, because it was about becoming a social worker. So in applied health, you're really learning about all the different avenues that then you can either stay in your undergrad here or go on and get your master's and go this direction, this direction, this direction, like spokes of a wheel, right? And one of them was social work. I already knew I didn't want to do it, but I knew I wanted to graduate. And we had to read A Child Called It. And Amanda and I are of the generation that we know when it came out and was popular. I'm glad I didn't read it then. But in that, there were so many things that triggered me that were one of those, oh, that was abuse. Oh, that wasn't normal. Oh, goody. I get to add that to my list of abuse that happened to me as a child. And so many other things like I knew were wrong, in that I would never do those things to my children. But I thought it was just the era I grew up in, or just my parents being messed up. Mm-hmm. Well, no, it was abuse as well. So that was the whole unwrapping there. And then realizing that I needed to do a lot more healing when child number 3 came along. And this is where you really want to dive in, and you're smiling. Because we had to get some labels here. He has a defiant disorder. And I needed to get labels like through the medical community, because I needed him to get the extra help that he needed for school. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, he just started kindergarten this year and he's thriving in kindergarten. I am still like, are you sure you're talking about my child? I'm so shocked, because I had him in pre-K last year because I knew he'd need the extra help. And he was almost kicked out. So I don't know what's going on. Someone's pranking me, right? Yeah, I'll take it. But oh my goodness, are you sure? So instead, because he's doing so well there, at home, it's worse than normal. And he also triggers me because he has some of the defiance that my dad has. Most of my abuse was from my dad. Most of the different levels and types of abuse, if that makes sense. My mom was a drug addict and whole different ballgame there. But really digging in and getting the therapy to realize, why is he triggering me? Oh, okay, this is childhood stuff. Okay, let's dig in here. Let's do some EMDR here. And EMDR is my jam. If you don't know what that is, that's reprocessing. It's amazing. So Google that, check into it. It's really cool. And then I am now learning for myself and plan to become certified as what is it called? Tapping, EFT. It's really great. I'm actually, the book's on my desk right here. I read it every morning to learn more. But so that I can do some of that reprocessing on my own, like the smaller things, and leave the bigger things for therapy. I'm very excited for that. So there's many different layers of healing that I've had to do and kind of unwrapping this gift that I never wanted. Thank you, parents. And thank you, society, too.
Yeah.
Especially as women and then little girls, we are taught not to say no. We are taught to behave, to be pretty, to be all of these things. So I can get on soapbox there. And Amanda's shaking her head. Yes, we'll try not to soapbox that too much.
I mean, I like the soapbox because this is exactly the kind of conversations that cause us to be the small person that we were. Whether it's from the childhood challenges or relationship challenges or all of the things, it programs us, right? It programs us with this belief about who we are, what we're capable of, what we're supposed to be. And every time something happens outside of that, we can't reconcile it in ourselves. And so, definitely our MO is to shut down because that's safer. It keeps us safe to be quiet and small, especially when we were raised in a certain way. And it's this unraveling, like you said, to pull those layers out, to start to see something different. And well, anybody is, mostly moms listening are going to know when our kids are our biggest triggers, their biggest blessings, their biggest challenges, but they also, like you said, they forced you to realize the abuse in a sense that you grew up with because you started to see through their eyes and you started to see yourself as a child through their eyes. And then, as your kids grow up, then they start to pull at those other pieces. And I have 3 neurospicy children and oh my goodness, they are so challenging in so many different ways because the way that they operate is, pulling in all of those pieces in me. And I find myself having to really check myself because, we also have this knowing we don't want to become our parents. We don't want to do the things that they were done. It's like, so we're like resisting our programming in a sense to respond in the way that we were modeled to respond. And, I'm curious if you have some examples of the things he does that really pulled at you just, to relate, what that can look like.
Oh my goodness. How much time do we have? I won't take that much time, I promise. But the biggest thing where I needed to start, sorry, I have a little bit of a cold too. And now my body's like, I don't know what I need to be working on to heal. So the biggest thing that I started with my therapist is being able to label my emotions because as a child, I was only allowed to exhibit anger. I was the only one that they were, okay, now I can do something with this. I'm sure that's a generational thing. I don't understand why anger is one that they were then willing to work with, whatever. So I have, and I printed it out. It's over here. It's the feel and name your emotions. I don't know how much of that you can see.
Yeah, I can't. But you can even Google emotion wheels, and I've used them before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got that one off Canva, and then printed it out. And it has been amazing that I can go, hold on, and turn my chair around. Okay, it's actually this emotion that I'm feeling. And just even being able to do that for myself has been great. And then we bought a book that was recommended from the place who did the 4-hour assessment and all of that for him. That talks about emotions more on a child level. So it's been really helpful for him and for our family. My husband reads it with the kids. He gets the nighttime routine because I get the morning routine. And honestly, I get the worst end deal to get everybody out the door in time where, anyway.
Especially with an oppositional, defiant.
Yep. And there's times where it's that season, so I can say it, like the hocus pocus, where he will trigger people and you could just see him just and getting there, getting fueled for that. And when he does get the negative energy from that, it fuels him for longer. So I've had to teach our older 2, because he's number 3, okay, you need to not react, you need to walk away,
right? Because you're fueling it
in the other room.
It's exciting it.
It's just going to be worse. And then my husband and I work to, okay, we're gonna fill the other tank, so he's not trying to fill the tank that's negative. So
I did that as a child, and I could see that I was triggering people, and it was like, I wonder how far I can go with this. It's this curiosity, I think, that kids have, but we don't even understand as kids what we're doing, right? We're just feeding the energy of whatever was happening. And so how are you able to redirect and rewrite yourself when those are happening? Because if you're in a triggered state, it's way harder to make rational responses.
Yes. That's what's nice about having my husband and I are best friends. He is awesome and completely different than my family. So winner right there. He is an empath as well. So he's very in tune with other people's emotions and basically what that means. And he will kind of tap in and out. Like, okay, it's your turn. Okay, it's my turn. And we are blessed to be able to know his love languages. And we already had an idea of one of them, and it's actually his secondary one. We thought it was his primary. But as part of, I went through and became a parent coach through the Parenting Blueprint program. And it was one of those. So let me back up. I have my own podcast, Wellness in Every Season, and I had a parenting coach on, and everything she was saying, I'm like, oh, I need to know more. Oh, I'm curious. Oh, your son that led you down this sounds just like mine. Like, tell me more, tell me more. And before I even edited the episode, I told my husband, you need to listen to it. I know it's raw and it's longer because of that, but you have to listen to this. And he came back. He's like, I can tell you definitely resonated with her. What are you thinking? And I'm like, I want to do that program, but I want to see if she also will allow me to then share it with other people so I can also become a coach with that. And thankfully, she did have a program for me to become one of her coaches. So that is one of several things that I do. And through that program, I was able to understand his personality type, the pros and cons to it, because we all have pros and cons to all of our personalities. And it's really good to understand that so that we can then, so think of it as like a manager for building our team. You want to have all 4 of those different personality types so that there aren't really gaps. And I guess I could say that I have that perfect team with my family, with my 4 kids, because they're all different. But it was really beneficial for my husband and I to be able to speak affirmations that work with his personality type. And then to take the love language quiz and realize, oh, okay, what we thought was his primary is his secondary, and better speak his love languages. So he is someone who really likes physical touch. Mm-hmm. And when he was starting kindergarten, we made sure to give his kindergarten teacher all of this information. And the nice thing is she was my daughter's kindergarten teacher last year. They're a grade apart. So I already had her email address early. He'd be like, here's all this stuff when you're ready. So she said, I'm ready. I'm like, okay. So she was able to know that physical touch is good for him. So like, hold him around his shoulders, like tap him for attention, and definitely do the find my eyes, look at me type of thing. So that really helps to re-regulate him. And then if he is really dysregulated, we just do like the tight hug and we'll snuggle him while he's having his smoothie, and talk to him about his day, what my husband has tried and has worked. And I mentioned it here and there, but he has a penguin. He calls him Waddle, little stuffed penguin, and talking about how Waddle's feeling has worked. And I only heard my husband doing it one time. And then since then, I've been able to just ask him how he's feeling. I feel like it kind of unlocked him.
Interesting.
So for my husband, it's a lot of trying different things and self-discovery. And for me, it's diving into what I've already learned from being a parenting coach. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of fun just having both of those. Mm-hmm. And then our kids are watching what we're doing. And my daughter is very much like me. So when you were talking about just seeing how you were as a child and how you did some of those things, it's very interesting to see my daughter and be like, oh, so that's how it would be without the trauma. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And she's very much the caregiver like I am. Mm-hmm. So just interesting to be like, oh, okay, it's not just a gender thing. It's a who I am thing. Right. And she will kind of mother hen him. She will mother hen him a little bit, but not in the mother way. Sometimes she does, but I'll correct that. I'm the mom, not you. But she will very much be, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And she'll lock eyes with me and I'm like, keep going. Keep going. So it's really nice that he's getting that from different people. And for him, it's really him feeling like he's seen. Because if he's not feeling seen, he will make sure he is and not in the way you want. So that's been very beneficial. Let's see what else.
I'm curious because my 3, they're not super empathetic towards each other. My most empathetic child cares about everybody. Absolutely. And me, I'm his most connected, safe person. But man, does his brother trigger the crap out of him. That's probably my bigger challenges are the sibling stuff between them because they're not very kind to each other sometimes.
He actually triggers me the most.
Interesting.
Out of anybody. And it's realizing the childhood work that I need to do. So the four personality types are dominant, inspiring, supportive, and cautious. And he has the dominant and the cautious in there. So, and that's very different from me. And he is the most different from, see if I remember right, from my youngest. And they're the 2 that are the next closest in age besides my daughter and him. So I have a 3-year gap, and then it's 19 months, and then it's 22 months. I'm done. Got them all out of the way real quick. Yeah. So those 2 can have the most conflict. And I think there's also that they're closer in age. And especially last year when they were the only 2 left at home. Now that the oldest 3 are at school and it's just the youngest left at home, it's a lot easier. Plus, he's my most easygoing child. Except right now, the 3-year-old tantrums are not very fun. But it's been interesting to see how they work together and just be able to help them navigate their personality differences, I think has really helped the most. And it made summer work really well until like the last 2 weeks. Then I was just like, I'm so done. Like,
please, it's time to go back.
Can this be over yet? So kudos to you who homeschool. That was not in my cards.
Well,
I'm so glad.
I did it for like 2 years because of COVID, and I cannot. Yeah. I can't. I have to be. Somebody else has to be in charge. I have to have space. I need to take care of me, and that is part of taking care of me. I think some people are wired to homeschool, but my kids are also opposites, all 3 of them. And so like they need different things. They're not going to agree to do the same thing. So you can't manage it when they're all going in different directions. At least I didn't find that very easy.
So today is a 4-hour late start because of parent-teacher conferences. And I already planned on going to the gym. So I put them in, they call it the fun zone here at the Y. And I asked them, do you want to stay longer or not? Because I had the chiropractor appointment right afterwards to help my back. And they were all saying that they wanted to stay longer. So then he had to say no. And I'm like, yeah, well, you get to discuss it with them then. Well, I can just come out with you. I'm like, no. Because he's like, because I was saying you guys can have 30 minutes at the park or you can have 30 more minutes here because we have that weird time in between the 2. And my oldest was having tons of fun running around, like sweat pouring down, like just having a blast. He is very social, so he needs to have that tank filled. And I'm not as much. So I'm like, go do that somewhere else. I need a little more space and quiet. So I will parent, but then I'm like, okay, you guys need to go play for a little bit so I could just kind of recharge. And I know that's because of trauma. So it's healing that. And I realize that I have more capacity as I'm healing that. So it's kind of giving myself that grace and trying to explain it in a language that my kids understand and not in the, well, now you have to parent me way.
Right.
No, thank you. My parents did that. No, thank you. I'm very anti that. But for him, with him being instantly wanting to switch and have it be the opposite way, And well, we can go to the park together and then we'll pick them up. And I'm like, the park's not that close. And you can go talk to your siblings to change their mind then. It was always like, oh, okay. And then he went running off. So it's just really finding ways to disengage and take some of that responsibility away from, I need to fix this situation, has been huge. And then another part that I just got into was the place who did the 4-hour test. They offer, it's called behavior management training, so that I'm better able to manage his behavior. So it's kind of like if you've ever had dogs, I'm a dog person, where most of the training is you're training the owner. Yeah, that's me. They're training me.
Well, I think that's a really good example for motherhood in general, right? The kids are not broken. They don't come into the world, and they might have their personalities and their challenges, and all of the things, but it's really about how we were parented and it's our broken programming in a sense. And so all of this work is yes for our kids to be able to be with them and, parent them in a way that's positive, but it's actually retraining ourselves, our subconscious, being aware of our triggers and all of these other things so that we don't pass on that programming to our kids.
And I think also training towards them, their needs, their personalities.
Yeah.
So for me, backing up even further, in my degree program, I took classes just because I wanted to, along with finishing my degree. So I took a lot of parenting, child development classes, and read a lot of parenting books. And they worked so great on my other 3 children, but not on him at all. And I'm just like, nothing seems to work, one of those things. So the parenting blueprint was amazing for that. And then I'm very excited for the behavior management to be able to take what I'm learning and throw it into my newsletter for my audience to help them and to help throw it into some of the programs that I'm developing. I developed one that's how to stop yelling at your children. And of course, the next day I'm yelling at mine. I'm like, whoa, I need to go back to the content that I
put together to actually embody this.
Right. So it was really beneficial for me that I had to edit the videos and put it all together to get it in there a little more.
Yeah.
And then another one that I am halfway through developing, but the car accident is definitely slowing me down, is all about doing a morning routine for children, because my morning routine with them we kept it the same over the summer because they're young enough that it needs to be that way. But I was struggling with the defiance and him triggering other people. And then my daughter is not a morning person. She's phony. It's going to be awful when she's a teenager. Trying to get her up and moving in the morning. Maybe I'll have the brothers help or something. But it was really stepping back, get rid of the magnifying glass, and take the longer vision and, okay, what all is going on? Okay, I'm waking up earlier and it's working really well for me. What if I try that with her? So I now have her waking up 30 minutes earlier in the morning, and she loves that alone time with me. She gets to watch me work out, which is really beneficial. Kids should see you doing self-care things. Yep. She sees me reading my scripture. She sees me drinking my lemon water, stuff like that. And so she's all the way on track, and she's on a different enough schedule that now there aren't 4 little kids trying to cram into one bathroom. And I promise we have more than one bathroom in the house, but they forget that. I don't understand. But anyway, they're like, I need to use the bathroom. Cool, then use it. But so-and-so is in the bathroom. We have more than one bathroom in this house. The other ones are empty. Figure it out, child. But anyway, one of several. I swear I should just have a play button for my most said things. And just
you can make signs. And be like, if the door is closed, check the other bathroom.
Find another. All right. So several of my programs that I have created as a parenting coach are ones that I've developed for my own family that I worked, and now I'm sharing with other people. And that's the same with, I also focus on the wellness and the 8 dimensions of wellness. So those are geared towards there. And I kind of throw in what I do in in the other programs. So you kind of see, oh, okay, this is what she does here as well. Type of lead you along if you want to do more. Trying to have it be this whole like playground idea where everything works together. So I really, really enjoy, and I'm really grateful that I've done the parenting blueprint, and I can share with you data from people who've been in there, which is great and everything. But what matters the most to me is that it's working in my family. I don't care about everybody else. Like, I am my biggest, yes, it works because I have proof, because I feel a lot less stress over this. All the three of them, I got them all going in one direction, but him going in another direction and throwing us all off. And I now have the ability to let him be him a lot more, just like I always wanted to, without him triggering me by being him. And he is getting along so much better with the other three. They're getting along better with him. It feels more like the family unit I wanted it to be. Wow. Okay. Emotions.
I was going to say, that's the healing for your heart, right? Just as the family you didn't grow up to have, you now have created.
And there's so many things that I try to explain to my oldest, because he's almost 10, that not everybody's parents like each other. And you are so blessed because your mommy and daddy like each other. And sometimes I'm saying this when we like each other enough that we would like to talk and not be interrupted. Can you guys go in the other room so mommy and daddy can talk? Or, I married him because I want to spend more time with him. Go away. So sometimes it's said during that time. And sometimes it's also said that you have no idea how blessed you are because you don't hear mommy and daddy yelling at the house. You don't hear all of these things. And I try to share with him those things, not in a let's create fear way, but in a, when you go into other people's houses, notice the difference in what you're feeling in their house, and let us know if things aren't feeling right in other people's houses.
And you're also acknowledging their ability to listen to themselves too with that, right? And that is one thing that I wish we were all programmed with, is to validate our internal knowings, and we are not. No, society doesn't.
He's very in tune with that already.
Good.
So I'm just encouraging that along. Amazing. He's someone who I can show a G movie to the other kids and they'll be fine. But for him, we have to talk through some of what's going to happen in that movie, because he does not like that sense of just if somebody might get in trouble, or if there's any kind of suspense or injustice. He has a very, very big sense of what is justice and what is fairness. And I have no idea where he gets that from at all.
Oh my goodness.
There's so much of it where I'm like, you got that from me. You're welcome. Well,
all three of mine have that. And it's fascinating because they're older. And so mine are 9, 12, and 14 now. And they're throwing a lot of the things back at me in a sense, in a like, well, this is how you do it, right, Mom? So yes, you guys are watching everything I do. And it's both infuriating and amazing to watch at the same time, because you recognize how much impact you've had, and that they have taken those pieces, even if it didn't seem like it at the time. They have taken those pieces and they've, worked with it and gone. And the way they literally will negotiate with me is using the same, I think it was even my oldest. I asked him to do something just randomly this weekend. And he said, yes, in a minute. And he said, and I mean in a minute when I'm finished with the thing I'm doing, just like you say. Okay, fair enough. That is exactly what I say. And it's just kind of this understanding that kids are not just mindless, people who listen to everything you do just because they're a child and just because an adult said to do something. It's really checking ourselves in how we show up and how we speak to them and what we expect from them as well. And I think that's, to me, the whole point of this whole healing journey. Yes, we've gone through hell ourselves, whether it be childhood, relationships, whatever the thing, we've gone through it. And I know for me, there was a big catalytic event. Do you feel like there was one thing, or was just all these little things that sent you down this journey and, started reframing it little by little?
I have to think. I feel like it was more of a sunrise with some of it was a sunrise and some of it was like the sun shining through the clouds, like, a cloudy day, you see it
just
do
this
that.
like,
It's really cool. Yeah, there were some really big aha moments, but overall it was a sunrise, and I'm actually grateful for that.
Yeah.
That has been more of a journey instead of just pow.
Yeah.
Because there were some moments that have happened like that, just realizing some of the depth of the abuse and stuff like that. Like, I've had that come out of nowhere and be like, I don't know how to process this. Thankfully, it's been at times when the kids are asleep when that happens, like at night, where I'm like, I'm going to sit with this for a day and then I'm going to unload all this on my husband. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So like that type of thing. Or sometimes in therapy sessions, there'll be little bits, but most of it has been kind of more like a sunrise of, oh, okay, I understand this. I have more of the knowing. And it's really been good for me because I have been so wary of opening that Pandora's box of, this isn't going to be stuffed back in. This is going to be too much. And I still have to parent while I'm uncovering all of this stuff, that I'd rather it be little things. So with the tapping book, my goal is to do all the peripheral things while I'm doing the deep work with the therapist, so that I'm not doing all the little things with the therapist, so that I can be who I need to be in the world. Great. But more so with my family, with my children, the ones who are stuck with me all the time. And I can show up one way and be great. That takes a lot of energy out in the real world. And then come home and be a hot mess. I want to take care of the hot mess.
Right. Well, and that's just an example of, I think you were talking about earlier, your son goes to school and is great, and he comes home and he's a mess. And I think we all do versions of that, and recognizing it doesn't just happen in our kids, it happens with ourselves, but they're mirroring all of those places for us to help us in a sense. And if we can, take a moment, check ourselves a bit, and realize the lesson they're trying to show us, there's so much that can be gained from it. And I think it's amazing that you've been able to take this, little by little, and just implement it and embody it and work with it. And, more was going to happen as your kids get older. I mean, it's just, that. But the more work we do, the easier it gets, because you're more, you're more prepared. You're more, you're less in a trigger state. And I find for myself, things that would have set me off, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, you did that. And it's not that I don't care. It's just that I don't need to have a nervous system high to have a response. And I can sit back and have a calm response and just, I used to be upset when dishes would get broken or messes would be made. And because, that was the way I was raised. And I don't what are you going to do about that? You going to clean it up? And it's just such a calm response and reaction, and letting whatever the thing be, or you had a fight with your sibling. That used to really set me off. That's where my anger would come out, when they would go at each other, and I would sound like my father. I don't like this. But, I had to step back and realize this wasn't about me. This isn't about me at all, but I'm interjecting myself and making a whole thing of it when they're having a fight, which is actually escalating it, not helping. And instead, I need to are people safe? Are we getting physical? Because then I do need to intervene, because safety first. But otherwise, okay, I'm just helping them negotiate. He's trying to tell you something, and he's trying to have a response. And what's the agreement we're coming to? Okay, it's actually very easy. But we can't do that if we're triggered and we're replaying our childhood. And if we're replaying our childhood memories unconsciously even more, we really can't do it. And so I love the way that your journey has first brought you to the awareness, and then started to seeking out the tools of how to rewrite it. And I think that's a blessing and beautiful in all of the ways. And now you're taking it and helping other people with it, which is, to me, the whole point. We have these lived experiences. so that we can learn the lessons and then share them with others so that they can find it and we can ripple this out.
I'm glad that you feel the same way I do.
Yeah, I think that's the point. Last night I took my youngest son to watch The Wild Robot. I'm going on a tangent, but that's okay. The Wild Robot, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I don't usually cry in movies. I'm not super emotional. That is not my norm. But this robot was basically imprinted on by a goose. And the goose decided the robot was mommy. And this robot became a mother and hoped and had no programming for it whatsoever and had no understanding of what to do, let alone a goose, let alone, humans were the programming. This robot was supposed to help, not a goose. And yet the robot stepped up and helped the goose succeed in a way that didn't know, and then had to let the goose go and fly away. And all of my emotions were like, oh my God, this is the point. It doesn't matter what the programming is, whether we had it or it was wrong or it caused harm to us. There is something about being a mom that empowers us to fight back and to become something that we didn't know existed. And, and then the robot goes on to save the forest. And I'm just like, that's the point, is when we can start rewriting this programming and we can step into something, then we can help the bigger collective and we can support, yes, our family that matters, but beyond that. And it's like, I don't think so usually affects me like this, but this one is sitting with me, and it's just like people are getting it in a different way. And I'm really excited to, watch your journey continue as your kids get older, because let me tell you,
It's harder and easier.
Or hard. Teenagers are really,
I'm already dreading
a
it.
new set of challenges. And oh my God, especially the ones with the defiant autistic type tendencies, because it's a whole different thing. Change is already hard when you're a toddler and, leaving the house and doing things a little bit different. Teenagerhood and puberty and it's a whole new lens. And I am learning as a whole, because, I was also a teenager who forced my way out to do the things that I wanted to do. And it didn't always, it set me on a very negative journey in a lot of ways. And so it's really acknowledging that. And I feel like I'm healing my teenagerhood in a sense as my kids are approaching that time. And man, it's a big one. So is there any, I know you talked about EFT and EMDR and therapy and different coaching programs. Is there anything else you would like to add to the box, like the toolbox, for people who are maybe resonant with your story and looking for tools and help that you think they would like?
Yes. And I'll make sure that it goes in your show notes.
Yes.
So you'll get on my newsletter this way. If you don't want to stay on, you can easily unsubscribe. No hard feelings. I'll just cry a little. But you can get parenting affirmations that are based off of the personality type. And the nice thing is there's only 4. So they are, again, dominant, inspiring, supportive, and cautious. Just 4. And we have a primary and secondary. And once you can speak their love language by these affirmations, so there's the love language, which we've all heard about the love languages. And then there's the affirmations based off of their personality type. You get both of those together and you are golden with them, because they will feel so seen and heard. And if you feel like this is just, frou-frou, whatever, dig into your own childhood. Mm. What about the times when you weren't seen or you were spoken to in ways that maybe if you had siblings, lit them up, and your parent could turn around and say that same thing to you and it would feel like it tore you down? This is where this stuff is really where it's at. So you can get into my newsletter, and this link will give you this freebie to it. And then from there, you can continue on to my newsletter if you want. If not, you have these affirmations and they are amazing. They are, another parenting coach actually came up with them within the program that I'm in. And we've used them on our kids, and it is so fun to see them light up and just be like, I'm seen, I'm heard. I love it. You have to try it. At least try it. Before you knock it, you have to try it. So that will be in the show notes. And then if you want to find me on social media. I do show up more in my newsletter, but I am at Wellness in Every Season. And my website is wellnessinEverySeason.com. My podcast is Wellness in Every Season. Everywhere you will find me, Wellness in Every Season. It's a play off of my name, Autumn. And I believe we have different seasons of wellness in our life where sometimes we're at highs, sometimes we're at lows, sometimes we're in between. And that's even my logo is a tree with all the different seasons in there because that's how we are. And I think it allows so much space when we realize that it is that way and that is normal. You're seen, you're heard. It's a path, the journey. You're there.
Awesome. I'm very curious about these affirmations. I'm definitely going to go check it out.
Well, yeah, I'm going to send it to you so you already have it.
It's perfect.
She'll be the first tester.
I love it. No, I mean, and I have a different, I call them energy types, but it's very similar to your personality types that you're talking about and the way that I approach my kids. And I know that one of them needs a different type of like connection point than the other because of who they are. And I look at it more like mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, but the way my like intellectual child needs me to validate his mind in a different way. He needs me to see him at his ability to solve puzzles like that feels seen. He does not want to acknowledge the emotions sometimes. That's more uncomfortable. They're not there, but that's not where he's asking for the point of connection versus my other child who is really deeply wanting that emotional connection. And if I don't acknowledge his big feelings, then he feels even worse because I'm not seeing him. And so it's just, very, very different. But I like the way that's a, totally different way to look at it. There's probably some points of connection too for me to my puzzle brain very much likes those points of connection. But I also love the flip to build it as affirmations, especially because I have two of my very words of affirmations. So using that on top of what they need to hear, I think it's
one of my love languages, words of affirmation. So if you guys just want to bring them on in, no. But it was very interesting for when I was reading it, being like, I can just build myself up just reading some of these.
I needed to hear this.
But yeah, and how many times have we been hit by something like that where we're just like, suddenly there's the emotions and realizing we had this hole that somebody suddenly filled. And it's like, yeah. And just being seen and almost being like, oh, but I didn't fully want to be seen either type of thing. So anyway, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. So I really appreciate you coming and sharing your story and all these tools that you have created and will continue to create. And, if there's any final thoughts you want to leave, anything that you feel like, words of advice for people in the midst of it, please share.
My main thing is to make sure that you are giving space for yourself as well, because you can show up as your best self when you have something that you can share. And your way of doing that is by filling, I'm going to use the cup analogy, but when you're filling your cup and it gets sloshed, what's falling out? Is it good things or bad things? Or you can think of it that way, or the pouring from. And you can have nothing left in your cup, but you're still pouring. But what you're doing is you're taking out against your future self. So you need to make sure that you are filling up that cup. And that is why a lot of my other programs are focused on taking care of yourself and the wellness side, because you need to be well to be the parent that you want to be. It's just, there's no other way, because it's one of those, if you want to know what your triggers are, ask your children, ask your significant other. They know it because they know how to push them. So it's one of those things that you need to take care of yourself, because nobody else is going to. Because children, they take, and not because, and it's not supposed to be a bad thing.
Right.
We can make it a bad thing when we aren't setting those boundaries, but they're watching by example.
Yes.
And how awful is it to be a grandparent someday and seeing your children doing the things that you used to do, the negative things, the things that were depriving of your health. And you want to be able to say something, but you can't because you're that bad example and they're following you.
Right.
I mean, so it's really looking at things from different lenses, different dimensions, but take care of yourself so that you can take care of your kids.
Amen. I Totally agree. Thank you for those words of wisdom and for sharing your story and for coming on the show. And for all the listeners, I will put all those links in the show notes so that you can find Autumn and dig into everything. Thank you all for joining us. I will see you in the next episode.
Thank you for joining us on Awakened Motherhood. I hope today's episode inspired you and offered support for your journey. Remember, your story has the power to ignite change, and your resilience is a testament to your strength as a mother. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Share it with other mothers who might benefit from our stories of empowerment and healing. I invite you to connect with me on social media platforms at Amanda Quick Healing, or visit my website, amandaquickhealing.com, for more information on other ways to work with me. Until next time, keep embracing your divine self and discovering your warrior mama within. Thank you for being part of Awakened Motherhood, where your story is the spark for change.